The arena was silent. 100,000 alien voices had gone quiet at the same time. High above the battlefield, floating thrones held the rulers of 12-star empires. The sky itself shimmered with holographic banners. This was not just a fight. This was judgment. In the center of the arena stood a single human. Commander Elias Vaughn did not look special. No glowing armor. No plasma wings. No alien technology. Just a simple black combat suit, scratched and burned from old battles. Across from him stood something no human had ever defeated. A Cathal war titan. The creature was 3 times taller than Elias. Its body was covered in thick silver plates that looked like living metal. Blue energy ran through cracks in its armor like lightning trapped inside stone. The crowd had expected a joke. When they heard a human would represent Earth in the galactic trial of strength, they laughed. Humans were new, small, fragile, easy to break. At least, that was what the galaxy believed. The Cathal Titan lifted its massive blade. The weapon hummed with gravity power. One swing could split a tank in half. Elias slowly removed his helmet. Gasps echoed across the arena. Humans never removed helmets in alien air. But Elias did. He took a deep breath. Then he smiled. And that confused everyone. The High Chancellor of the Dravari Empire leaned forward on her throne. "Why is he smiling?" she whispered. The horn sounded. The Titan moved first. It crossed the distance in less than a second. Its blade came down like a falling star. The arena floor exploded. Dust filled the air. The crowd cheered. It was over. Too easy. Too predictable. But then, a shadow moved behind the Titan. Elias was standing there, unharmed. The Cathal froze. "How?" someone whispered. Elias cracked his neck slowly. He had not dodged. He had stepped into the attack. He had used the Titan's own force to launch himself behind it. Before anyone could understand, Elias drove a small metal spike into a tiny gap behind the Titan's knee. The giant creature roared. Its leg collapsed. Shock spread across every throne in the sky. The human had studied them. He knew their weak points. The Titan swung wildly, smashing the arena walls. Elias ran toward it instead of away. He jumped. Used the Titan's armor like stairs. Climbed its back. The Titan tried to grab him. Too slow. Elias reached the glowing crack at the creature's neck. He placed his hand over the energy core. And whispered, "You rely on power. We rely on will." He pulled a device from his belt. A simple Earth-made pulse detonator. No alien tech. Just human engineering. He pressed it. A shockwave exploded from the Titan's core. Light blinded the arena. When the dust settled, the war titan was on its knees. Then it fell. Dead. The arena did not cheer. It did not scream. It did not move. Because what they had just seen was impossible. A human had defeated a species that had ruled battlefields for 500 years. Elias stood alone in the smoke. Breathing hard. Bleeding from his forehead. But standing. He looked up at the alien rulers. And for the first time in galactic history, they did not look down at a human. They looked up. The real reason he was there. This was not just a tournament. This was survival. Earth had been discovered only 12 years ago. The galaxy had given humanity a choice. Submit and become a minor labor species. Or prove their strength in the trial of worth. No species had ever won the trial on their first attempt. Most failed. Some were erased. Elias was Earth's final champion. If he lost, humanity would never be respected. They would serve. Forever. The Chancellor stood. "Human," she said loudly, her voice echoing through the arena. "You have passed the first trial. But strength is only one measure." Elias said nothing. He knew this was only the beginning. The second trial would not be about muscles. It would be about fear. The second trial, the Chamber of Night. 2 hours later, Elias stood before a black metal door. The Chamber of Night. Inside, each species faced its greatest fear. Many warriors came out broken. Some never came out. The Dravari Chancellor watched him carefully. Humans fear death more than most, she said softly. Elias heard her. But he did not reply. The door opened. Darkness swallowed him. Inside, there was no sound. No light. Then, a voice. His mother's voice. You failed us, Elias. His chest tightened. The darkness changed. Now he stood on Earth. But it was burning. Cities destroyed. Ships falling from the sky. Alien banners planted in human soil. He saw children running. Crying. He saw soldiers dying. He saw Earth kneeling. The voice returned. This is your future. You are too weak. His hands shook. His breathing became heavy. This was not just illusion. The chamber attacked the mind directly. It pulled fear from memory. It made it real. Elias fell to one knee. The image of Earth in chains stood before him. He felt small. Powerless. The same feeling he had as a child when bullies pushed him down. The same feeling when alien ships first entered Earth's orbit. But then, he remembered something. Humans were not strong because they were fearless. They were strong because they felt fear. And moved forward anyway. Elias stood up slowly. The burning Earth flickered. He looked at the illusion. You think this breaks me, he said quietly. You show me fear. He stepped forward. But you forget something. His fists clenched. Fear is why we fight. The world shattered like glass. The darkness cracked. Light burst through the chamber walls. Outside, alarms began ringing. The chamber of night had never been broken from inside. Until now. The metal door exploded outward. Elias walked out. Alive. Unbroken. The alien rulers were standing now. Not sitting. Standing. The Chancellor's eyes were wide. The human destroyed the chamber. One of the older warlords whispered, "What kind of species turns fear into fuel?" No one answered. Because they were starting to understand. The final trial, the choice. The final trial was unexpected. No arena. No weapons. Elias was brought before the High Council alone. 12 rulers stared at him. The Chancellor spoke. You have shown strength. You have shown mental resilience. She leaned forward. But the final measure is this. A hologram appeared. Earth. Surrounded by a massive alien fleet. Enough ships to wipe out the planet. You can win, she said calmly. Or you can save your people. Elias frowned. The Chancellor continued. Our fleets are ready. If you continue the trial, Earth will be destroyed. Silence filled the chamber. It was a test of ambition. Would he choose glory? Or sacrifice? Elias looked at the image of Earth. Then at the rulers. You fear us, he said. A murmur spread across the council. He stepped closer. You would not test us like this if you did not fear what we could become. The Chancellor's expression hardened. Answer the question, human. Elias nodded. I choose Earth. The hologram vanished. The fleet disappeared. The rulers leaned back. Then, they began to laugh. Not mocking laughter. Respectful laughter. The Chancellor stood. There was never a fleet. The room fell silent. It was the final test. Power without loyalty is dangerous. Strength without heart is empty. She looked at him carefully. You chose your world over victory. Elias met her eyes. There is no victory without my world. Silence. Then the Chancellor struck the floor with her staff. Humanity has passed the trial of worth. A signal was sent across the galaxy. Earth was no longer a minor species. No longer weak. No longer dismissed. They were recognized. Equal. But something had changed. As Elias prepared to return home, the Chancellor stopped him. You should know something, she said quietly. The galaxy watches species that rise too fast. Elias understood. Passing the trial did not end danger. It began a new chapter. Some empires would respect humanity. Others would see them as a threat. War might still come. But now, humanity would not stand alone. As Elias boarded the human starship, he looked back at the alien capital world. They had laughed when he entered the arena. Now they studied humanity with caution, respect, maybe even fear. Inside the ship, a young human officer asked him softly, "Commander, were you scared?" Elias smiled faintly. "Yes." The officer looked surprised. "But you looked fearless." Elias looked out at the stars. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said. "It is deciding something else matters more." The engines ignited. The human ship jumped into hyperspace. Back to Earth. Back to a world that had just changed its place in the universe. And across the galaxy, whispers began. "Be careful of the humans. They break what cannot be broken. They turn fear into fire." And somewhere in the darkness of space, an unknown force watched the broadcasts. Studying. Calculating. Waiting. Because humanity had just proven something dangerous. They did not kneel. They adapted. They endured. And they were only getting started. The celebration on Earth lasted 3 days. 3 days of lights in the sky. 3 days of music in the cities. 3 days of hope. For the first time in history, humanity was not small. They were recognized by the Galactic Council. Children watched the replay of Commander Elias Vaughn defeating the Carthel War Titan again and again. His face became a symbol. Strength. Courage. Refusal to kneel. But on the 4th day, the stars changed. It began with silence. Satellites stopped responding. Deep space sensors went dark. Then the emergency alarm started screaming across every human colony. Unidentified fleet detected. Size, massive. Origin, unknown. Elias was in orbit above Earth when the message reached him. He was standing on the bridge of the human flagship Resolute Dawn. The young officer from before turned pale. "Commander, this is not a council fleet." On the main screen, space itself seemed to ripple. Then something enormous appeared. Black ships. Sharp like blades. Hundreds of them. No diplomatic signals. No warning. No greeting. Just weapons charging. Elias felt it immediately. This was not politics. This was war. The enemy that did not speak. Within minutes, Earth's defense grid activated. Orbital cannons rotated. Fighter squadrons launched. Civilian ships were ordered to evacuate. But the Black Fleet did not move. They waited. As if studying. Then a transmission broke through every human channel. The signal was distorted. Mechanical. Cold. Species. Human. Classification. Rapid evolutionary threat. The bridge went silent. The voice continued. Preemptive elimination required. No name. No empire. No emotion. Elias stared at the fleet. "They were watching the trial," he said quietly. The officer nodded. "They see us as dangerous." Elias gave the order. "Shields to maximum. All fleets into defensive formation." The black ships moved. And the sky exploded. The Battle of Earth's orbit. The first strike came like lightning. Thin beams of dark energy sliced through 3 human cruisers instantly. No warning. No charge glow. Just destruction. Human fighters swarmed forward. Missiles streaked across space. Rail cannons fired. Explosions lit the darkness. But the enemy ships adapted. Their shields shifted color every time they were hit. Learning. Improving. Elias watched carefully. "They are studying our attack patterns in real time," he said. "Change firing sequences. Randomize everything." The human fleet adjusted instantly. It was something aliens had noticed during the trial. Humans were unpredictable. Messy. Creative. One small human destroyer rammed directly into a black ship after losing engines. The explosion tore a hole through enemy lines. The crew sacrificed themselves without hesitation. Elias closed his eyes for 1 second. Then opened them again. "No wasted deaths," he whispered. The battle intensified. Earth's atmosphere began glowing from energy spillover. Cities below watched the sky burn. Families held each other. Not in panic. In defiance. Because they had seen what one human could do. Now billions stood together. A dangerous discovery. In the middle of chaos, a science officer shouted from her station. "Commander! We are detecting something inside their ships." Elias moved closer. "What kind of weapon?" She hesitated. "Not a weapon." She zoomed the scan. Inside each black ship was a core. Organic. Alive. Elias felt a chill. "They are not machines," he said slowly. "They are controlled by something biological." The enemy fleet suddenly shifted formation. Instead of attacking Earth, they began targeting satellites, communication arrays, navigation systems. They were not trying to destroy. They were trying to blind. "Commander," the officer said urgently, "if they shut down our network, we cannot coordinate defense." Elias made a fast decision. "All ships disengage and fall back toward Lunar Base." The officer stared at him. "Sir, that exposes Earth." "Yes," Elias replied calmly. "And it forces them to follow." The fleet obeyed. The black ships chased. Exactly as he predicted. Elias opened a private channel. "Lunar Base, prepare the Hammer Protocol." There was silence. Then a shocked reply. "Commander, that weapon was never tested." Elias watched the enemy approach. "It will be today." The Hammer Protocol. Hidden beneath the surface of Earth's moon was humanity's final secret. A weapon built in fear. A weapon designed after the first alien contact. It used gravitational compression technology. One shot. Massive power. But unstable. As the Black Fleet entered the space between Earth and the moon, Elias gave the signal. Fire. The moon itself seemed to pulse. Then, space folded. A wave of invisible force slammed outward. Half the enemy fleet collapsed inward, crushed by artificial gravity. Ships twisted. Metal screamed. But not all were destroyed. The remaining black ships immediately changed formation again. They adapted to the new weapon within seconds. "They're adjusting their mass fields," the science officer shouted. Elias clenched his jaw. Even human secret weapons were only temporary advantages. Then something unexpected happened. One of the damaged black ships began transmitting. Not to Earth. To the entire galaxy. A distress signal. Elias frowned. "They are calling reinforcements." The officer shook her head slowly. "No, Commander. They are calling their creators. The ones behind the curtain." Hours later, the battle slowed. Both sides were damaged. Both sides bleeding. Then space tore open again. But this time, the ships that arrived were not black. They were silver. Smooth. Elegant. And familiar. The Dravari Empire's fleet. Behind them, ships from 5 other council species. The Chancellor herself appeared on screen. "You did not think we would ignore this, did you, human?" Elias felt something rare. Relief. The Chancellor's eyes were serious. "The species attacking you are called the Varroan Collective." The name echoed across the bridge. "They eliminate civilizations they calculate as future threats. They do not negotiate. They do not warn." Elias looked at the battlefield. "And we are next on their list." "Yes," she said. "But not alone." Council ships joined the fight instantly. Their weapons were different. More refined. But even they struggled. The Varroan ships began merging. Combining into larger forms. Learning faster. Adapting faster. The Chancellor's voice lowered. "They grow stronger with every second." Elias understood. A war of time. The longer it lasted, the stronger the enemy became. He made a decision. "Chancellor," he said firmly, "what happens if their core mind is destroyed?" There was silence. Then, they would lose coordination. Elias turned to his officers. "Find me the main core." The impossible plan. Deep scans located it. One massive ship. Larger than all others. Staying behind the front lines. Protected. Elias knew what he had to do. "I'm taking the Resolute Dawn straight through their formation." The bridge erupted in protest. "That's suicide." Elias shook his head. It's focus. He opened a channel to all allied fleets. Draw their fire. Make them think we are retreating. Council ships hesitated only a second. Then they obeyed. The battlefield shifted again. Human and alien fleets began falling back. The Varuan ships advanced aggressively. Exactly as Elias wanted. Then, the resolute Dawn turned. Full speed. Straight into the heart of the enemy. Enemy ships fired from all sides. Shields collapsed. Hull damage alarms screamed. Crew members were thrown across the bridge. Elias did not blink. Stay on target. They broke through. Ahead was the massive core ship. Its surface pulsed like a living heart. Elias whispered, "There you are." But the core ship reacted. It opened. And something emerged. A creature. Massive. Energy wrapped around its body like armor. It was not mechanical. It was alive. The mind of the Varuan collective. It spoke directly into every mind on the bridge. You are statistically insignificant. Crew members fell to their knees from the mental pressure. Elias grabbed the command rail. You calculate numbers, he said through clenched teeth. But you don't understand us. The creature launched forward. Elias gave the final command. Overload the hammer drive. The officer's eyes widened. Commander, that will destroy this ship. Elias nodded. I know. He opened a final channel to Earth. For humanity, he said simply. Then the resolute Dawn accelerated directly into the core entity. The hammer drive overloaded. Space collapsed inward. A white explosion swallowed everything. After the silence. For 10 seconds. There was nothing. Then light returned. The Varuan ships drifted. Lifeless. Uncoordinated. Without their core mind. They were empty shells. The battle was over. Across Earth, people watched the sky clear. But there was no sign of the resolute Dawn. No sign of Elias. The Chancellor closed her eyes slowly. He chose sacrifice, she whispered. But then, a weak signal appeared on scanners. Escape pod. Drifting near the moon. Inside. Commander Elias Vaughn. Alive. Barely breathing. But alive. A new position in the galaxy. Weeks later, Earth held a different kind of ceremony. Not celebration. Recognition. The Chancellor stood beside Elias in person. Something no council ruler had ever done for a young species. She spoke clearly. Today, humanity is no longer on trial. She turned to the gathered fleets. They are defenders of the galaxy. Applause thundered across orbit. Elias stood quietly. Still scarred. Still human. The Chancellor looked at him one last time. The Varuan were feared for centuries, she said. You ended them in one day. Elias shook his head. Not alone. She allowed a small smile. No, not alone. As fleets departed and peace slowly returned, a young cadet approached Elias. Sir, do you think more enemies will come? Elias looked at the stars. There were always dangers in the dark. But something had changed. The galaxy no longer saw humans as weak. Or reckless. Or small. They saw them as something harder to define. Unbreakable. They will come, Elias said calmly. And we will be ready. Far beyond known space. Deep inside a dying Varuan data shard. One final calculation completed. New threat level assigned. Humanity. Unpredictable variable. Recommendation. Avoid direct conflict. For now. And so the galaxy entered a new era. One where humans were not the smallest voice in the room. But the voice that could not be ignored.